Hello and welcome to the World Wanderers podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Amanda, and we're your hosts.
And today we are taking you on a road trip.
To Austin.
Texas.
Where everything's bigger. And maybe better?
Maybe. We'll find out.
Okay. See you there. So where are we right now, Ryan?
We're just crossing Pearl River.
And whereabouts is that? It's a pretty obscure...
I think we're still in Mississippi.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Louisiana sign yet, but I think we're really close to Louisiana.
Anyways, it's Christmas Day and we're driving to New Orleans.
Yes, so we've been on the road for almost 5 hours. Oh, how awesome is this? We're crossing into Louisiana as...
live streaming Mississippi, Louisiana.
Keeping Louisiana beautiful. That's their thing. Well, that's pretty cool. And so we have a little bit, or I guess Ryan has a little bit of time off, kind of, sort of. So we're going to New Orleans for a few days and then onwards to Austin.
Yes.
What are you most excited for in New Orleans?
I haven't really considered it, to be honest with you. I think I'm just feeling excited to be going somewhere, to be like leaving the city, having a few days to kind of clear my head and not be so focused about doing things constantly. So I think that's already felt nice.
Yeah. Amazing. And what about Austin? Austin's been on your list of places that you've wanted to go for a long time now, so do you have high expectations for it?
No, I'm really just like happy to be getting a break, getting somewhere new. Lately I've been like feeling kind of like a lust for adventure, so we'll see if this satisfies it. But yeah, just really having like some space to like breathe, to think, to hopefully read. How about you? What are you looking forward to in NOLA?
I think like some food, some really good, like, what's the, like, Creole food? Like some jambalaya. I'd love to see some live music in New Orleans and then in Austin. It's like one of those things. I went to Nashville like 2 weeks ago, and the live music scene is just so cool, and it's something that I just don't have enough of in my life, I think. So hopefully seeing some live music. But yeah, just having the time off, being able to explore. We had some people over for dinner last night who are planning a big trip come April, May, and I felt this like pang of like, oh, I wish that was me, even though I'm like currently on a United States road trip, but it just doesn't feel as exotic as if I was in another country other than the US.
No, it doesn't.
So we have arrived in New Orleans.
NOLA!
What are your first impressions?
So we're staying in an Airbnb, and we're doing Airbnb the entire trip because Airbnb is awesome.
Yeah.
It's really nice, this unit we are renting.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool little setup. I mean, we're on this street that seems a little bit like grungy, I guess, a little bit older, which I think is a lot of New Orleans, like a lot of old houses. So
yeah, but we pulled off the highway and it was like, took our exit and we were in like a little bit of like a kind of iffy looking area.
Yeah, and so Ryan turns to me, he's like, how far are we from our Airbnb? I'm like, 3 minutes according to this map. And then we pull down this street and I was like, no, this can't be right. But it's actually this super, really nice, well done area. It seems like she had some sort of large garage or small hotel type old building, and it's been separated into like a few different units. So we've got a ton of space, a kitchen, a couch, a bedroom, a bathroom with a beautiful bathtub, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it made me think about, it's just nice to be, like sometimes when you're staying in the same place for a long period of time, you get kind of like comfortable and then you go somewhere else and like some of the stuff is different and you start to feel like a bit nervous. But I think that's one of the great things about travel is getting like exposure rather than being like, oh, hey, that's like not actually anything to worry about.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that I kind of like dealt with that when I first got down to Atlanta, but I've really just kind of normalized like my experiences in Atlanta. So I think it'll be interesting to experience New Orleans for, I guess, really only tomorrow. We basically just have, you know, tonight. I think we're going to chill out a little bit and then tomorrow to hang out in the city, but it'll be cool to experience.
Yeah. So, Amanda, where are we now?
We are on the I-10 headed west outside of New Orleans.
How was your experience here in New Orleans?
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's like a pretty crazy city. I think it was a bit different than I expected, even though I'd heard that it was, older and pretty eclectic. What did you think?
So we only really saw like the French quarter of the city.
Yeah.
So I think you can't like make broad judgments about it from the most touristy area, but yeah, it is pretty crazy, just the like volume of bars, gift shops, and like strip clubs.
Yeah.
That's like all there is.
I feel like somebody from New Orleans would probably be like, oh, there's so much more. I'm going back in February for Mardi Gras, so I'm excited and a bit nervous to see it in that state. But yeah, we walked along Bourbon Street, and it's just like, it's a bit mental. And the bars were open so early in the day, and people are just like drinking on the street. So it's a pretty cool vibe. It's, just different.
Yeah, it's nice to see somewhere that's like so distinct and like the culture's so different, even though it's like not that far out of like you can drive from Atlanta, but you get to somewhere that's more like it's like almost like European or like colonial. Yeah,
that's a really good point. Like we were walking and we kind of got onto Canal Street. Canal Street is this really big street with palm trees lining in the middle and lots of big buildings on either side, and it really felt like we were somewhere other than the United States.
So today we are continuing on our way through Houston and then on to Austin. All right, we have now made it into the Republic of Texas.
The state of Texas?
Yeah, right, state. Soon to be Republic. So far, we've seen a big gas station and a big flag. So, do you think it is true that things are bigger in Texas?
I think everything's bigger in Texas based off the two things that we've seen. The road is also bigger, and there's lots of big cars, like big trucks.
Yeah, I'm assuming people as well, once we get out and start interacting.
It's not nice. No, yeah, I observed that at the McDonald's. Was that in Louisiana?
Maybe.
I feel like it was already starting.
So we are currently on our way into Houston, where we are stopping for lunch with a friend before continuing on to Austin, Texas. Have you been to Texas before?
Yes, I've been to Dallas. Like, I've actually been to Dallas. I know you've been to the Dallas airport, but I've actually, been to the city. I'm actually really surprised by this weather. It's, extremely windy. It's kind of rainy. It's been really cloudy. I don't know why. I just pictured Texas as this place that, didn't rain. Kind of desert-esque.
Yeah, it's actually kind of remarkable how close to the ocean it is. And also, so there's a tornado warning in Houston, and so it's been, kind of stormy and crazy. Yeah, we're just passing through Houston, so not really, much expectations. Do you have any expectations, James?
I don't have many expectations for Houston. Dallas is pretty so city, so I don't really have any high expectations for Houston either. I'm excited to get to Austin though. I've got some good expectations, or high expectations for Austin.
It's been weird driving today. We've been driving for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Which is approximately how long it took to get to New Orleans from Atlanta, right?
Yeah, 5 to 6 to get there.
But it feels longer today. I don't know what it is.
I think it's the traffic. There's a shocking amount of traffic on the roads. I'm currently piloting this Pontiac G6 that we're taking to Austin, and there's just been so much traffic. I find it this drive has been a lot more stressful than the one from Atlanta to New Orleans.
And if you're listening in the future, this is December 27th. So I think it's Christmas traffic and whatnot.
Yeah, people have have kids and taking the whole week off. I don't know, maybe coming back to Texas, maybe coming home. I'm not really too sure where the traffic is, what they're doing. Maybe they're all headed to Austin just like us. I really don't know. It's busy
Yeah,
though.
definitely looking forward to getting to Austin tonight. And then kind of like setting up there for a week, which should be fun.
Yeah.
We also watched the movie Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back last night.
Why would our listeners care about that?
Well, I'm just recording in case we end up with some, just mining for gold here.
Okay. No, I think, though, listeners would care about that because we're going to go see the new movie at the Alamo Draft House, which is like a movie theater in Austin where you can get like a full meal and get alcohol if you want, which I think is awesome. So
Yeah, when you consider the genres of Star Wars, it could be part of the travel genre. Since, you know, they went to the Dagobah system. It's apparently probably not good reviews on Yelp of just the locations in the Dagobah system. It doesn't seem very friendly or hospitable.
which one was that? Which planet was that? I'm confused. You lost me.
That's where Yoda was at.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. Which planet? Was it Yoda or the other dude?
So one thing that people might find interesting is that we've been listening to an audio book while driving,
Yeah, what audio
which
book?
in and of itself is extremely boring and uninteresting. But I think it's one of the cool parts about driving places is that it gives you the opportunity to listen to things like...
The World Wanderers podcast.
Yeah, that's definitely a good
Oh
thing.
my
to
gosh, go on your podcast app and download them all and then listen to them while you drive. You will
And it's
not
cool,
regret
like,
it.
I drive, when we were living in Calgary working our just, like, kind of first office jobs, podcasts really, like, were kind of protecting my sanity, like, after work as I navigated, like, 30 minutes of rush hour traffic there and back, like, being able to kind of, like, get engaged with something, learn something, really did have, like, a life-changing effect on me. And, like, this stuff, because you can get so much more, like, deeper, so much more interesting stuff than you'd ever get through, like, mainstream content.
Oh yeah, totally. And something that's like really interesting about driving for a long time is that like you go through all these different radio stations, you'll lose some, you'll gain others. You'll hear like the same Taylor Swift song like 4 times if you've been driving for like 2 hours. And it's just like radio becomes obnoxious after a while. And so having an audiobook or some podcasts is really nice for a longer road trip, I think.
Yeah, we've been listening to Think and Grow Rich. What are your first thoughts of Think and Grow Rich?
Apparently I should be focused on money a little more than I have been. I don't know.
Well, if you're not thinking about money, you're not going to make money.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this off the recording, but I was just thinking of it as the mindset of finding something that would really make me happy, and then if I was creating something great, then the value would come.
Yeah, I
The
think
money would come.
the biggest thing that I've been thinking about is just how it's kind of like scary to set like a clear direction for where you want to go in life, but it seems like that's really, I mean, it just sounds obvious, but like, you know, once you decide you want to go somewhere, I feel like that's when it, like, you know, things just work out for you when you decide that, and not in some like weird like hippie way, but like,
I think though, like it is.
like if you set a goal and you just like start working on it, then you see progress, and then all these other options materialize and you end up going different directions, and you learn that maybe the thing you wanted wasn't actually what you enjoyed. But I think that for the long time I kind of felt pretty nervous and like hesitant to really like focus on a goal. And I think even now I still like don't have like a very explicit goal with what we're doing with this podcast.
Getting listeners, changing people's lives one person at a time. Yeah, no, I totally relate to that. And even at one point in the audiobook, it's like kind of like stop it and figure out your one life desire. And Ryan turns to me and he's like, "What's your one life desire, Amanda?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I've got like lots of different life desires, not just like one." But that comes from like this fear of failure. So it's like I want to have more than one. So if one fails, I've got like a bunch of other backups. So yeah, it's like an interesting concept to have a money goal and kind of think of like this one thing that you really want to achieve.
Yeah, and you can always go, like, it seems like you can always go back and do something new and, you know, things that you wouldn't have even thought you'd really love doing materialize to you once you start doing things you want. Like, that's one thing that I found awesome about traveling is, like, we were traveling, and after a while I was like, oh, I'm feeling really, like, unfulfilled, and then we kind of buckled down on learning Spanish, and that's when I was like, oh, wow, like, this learning of a language really makes me engaged, and it makes me feel, like, happy. And then I got, like, really into linguistics, which is never something I would have discovered unless I had gone traveling. So, like,
yeah,
it's like,
I think, like, we talk about it so much on this podcast, but I think it's so important to reiterate that travel really gives you the space to figure out sort of what you like, what you don't like, outside of, like, the societal norms that surround you for most of your life. And something, too, like, even taking a small road trip, like, okay, we're not going that far from Atlanta to Austin, but even, like, having that time outside of your regular routine really, like, gives you this opportunity to breathe. Side note, we're passing the Budweiser factory right now, which is kind of cool. It's pretty big.
yes, it's large. And you can see the Houston skyline, the smog in the distance.
Is it smog or is it clouds? Or
Probably
is it
a bit of
combo?
both. But anyways, we will check in with you later on.
So we have arrived in Austin. It was a little bit of an interesting drive as we got into Houston. The weather was pretty crazy, a lot of, like, really pouring rain, and then it was, like, pouring rain after we finished up our lunch in Houston as well, and driving through some pretty, like, crazy rainstorm, thunderstorm stuff on the drive into Austin. What are your first impressions of Austin?
It's kind of, like, bigger than I expected, but that's just because I obviously didn't do my research. Yeah, I'm excited that we finally got here. One thing I didn't really realize is that we had found out about there being tornado warnings, and I was kind of like, oh, wow, that's kind of crazy, but had no idea about that there was actually a serious tornado that hit in Dallas, and a lot of people were affected by that, so that was kind of...
Yeah, so we met up with a friend who's living in Houston at the moment, and she's from Dallas, and she was telling us that some people actually lost their lives yesterday in Dallas, so we were kind of like, whoa, that's like a serious tornado thing that's happening. But I guess it's like even when, like, the funnel clouds start, they can pick up some debris, and then debris can, you know, hit people or cars, and that's when it becomes really dangerous, and it's something that I wasn't totally aware of. I guess I thought that if you're kind of out of range of the actual tornado, you're fine, but there are some hazards there. So she taught us all about tornado safety in case we encountered any funnel clouds on our drive, which thankfully we did not.
Mm-hmm. But feels nice to, like, be here and to be here for a week.
Yeah.
It's weird to kind of, like, keep in mind that it's not, like, a vacation and that I'm just going to be, like, working but remotely next week.
Yeah, starting tomorrow, so.
I think it'll be cool because I think working remotely is something that I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
I thought would be cool to do. And this is, like, really my first opportunity to, like, test it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I've been doing since the middle of October, and it definitely, I mean, you won't master it in 4 days, I don't think, unless you're, like, superhuman compared to me, but it took me a while to kind of, like, get
I've had experience, like teaching English and working for myself and working from home. So.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I don't discredit those experiences. But I find it, like, it's hard to focus sometimes. I'm like, oh, I've got this whole day, and then I'm like, oh, shoot, I actually got to get this stuff done. So, yeah, I'm excited to get some stuff done, explore a little bit. We're about to head out to the Whole Foods, and the flagship store for the Whole Foods is in Austin. And for those of you who don't know, Ryan and I both really love Whole Foods. It's one of the highlights about being in the U.S. for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and on our Everything's Bigger in Texas tracker, gas stations, way bigger.
Yeah, so we actually stopped at one. I know we commented that one was bigger, but we stopped at one. I actually took a photo inside because it was just like, it was crazy. Like the biggest convenience store I've ever seen.
Yeah, but plus, like, just, like, the gas. There's, like, so many more gas pumps than you'd ever seen ever before.
Yeah, I think I pulled into like 14 or something like that.
It's bizarre.
It's like, oh, can I get $20 of gas on pump like 14?
Why are they so much bigger here?
I have no idea. Maybe we'll have to research it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's raining right now, which is kind of weird. I kind of just grabbed my rain jacket as like this afterthought. Like I actually ran back into the house and I was like, I should get my rain jacket. Like you never know. And I'm really grateful that I did. I totally didn't expect rain in Texas in December.
Why not?
I don't know. I just think of it as like a desert almost, like cactuses or something like that. I feel like that's totally wrong though.
Yeah. I think they're definitely totally wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, being in Georgia for so long, I feel like we've gotten a little bit used to warm weather as well. And it's a little bit, like, chillier here.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to warm up in the next few days, though. So hopefully, because I didn't bring that many warm weather clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we're off to get some snacks from Whole Foods, and we will check in later with our adventures from Austin.
Peace. And can you describe our Airbnb?
It is a studio apartment on the first floor of an apartment building. There's a table with some chairs and a TV, and then a bed that faces towards a shelf and a little kitchen. And there's also a bathroom.
And this is our third day here in Austin.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, going on our fourth night.
So what has been, or like, what have your thoughts been about Austin? What are the highlights, lowlights?
Lowlights. Highlights have been practicing yoga at a studio called Wanderlust. It's based off of the yoga festival that I went to last year in Oahu, which
the studio is not based off of. It's the same company.
Yeah. So sorry, it's owned by the company. But you should check out the episode about Wanderlust in Oahu. It's a pretty good one.
Why would anyone want to check that out?
I don't know. Well, if they're interested about Wanderlust, they should check it out.
So the Wanderlust yoga studio here in Austin is your highlight?
Yeah, plus the place across, like in the studio that makes like acai bowls. That's also been a highlight for me. What about you?
So we're here on weekdays, so I'm working remotely. So I've been checking out some cafes, which there's quite a few nice ones here in Austin. We've had some good food, especially good Mexican food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Torchy's Tacos. We'll put that in the show notes for this episode, but definitely some like good tacos. I got the Mr. Pink and the Mr. Orange.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like the type of place where people from Austin are like, that's not good tacos, but it's pretty good. It's like
It was super busy, and it's like there's quite a few locations, so I feel like it's probably a place they'd go. But
yeah, I would definitely eat there quite often if it was in the ATL.
Yeah, if you like guacamole, don't skimp out on that because it was delicious. But
yeah, and today we went out to Lake Austin.
Drove like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We went to a cafe called Mozart's Cafe, which seems to be all the hubbub. There's quite a few people there. We've
been like taking in the local commerce, right? Like we went to the Alamo Drafthouse movie theater.
Oh yeah, I don't even know why I didn't say that was a highlight. Yeah, that was great. The Alamo Drafthouse is this movie theater where you get like a full menu. You have a little table in front of you, full menu. Alcoholic beverages if you choose. So we saw Star Wars in 3D for $14 each, and we got full like bar and food service.
Which you also had to pay for.
Yeah, which you have to pay for, but still, the fact that the ticket was that less was.
And that's not just an Austin thing.
Where else is it?
It's around. I think there's like West Coast, New York, other places. The Alamo Drafthouse. I think it started here though.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we've checked out the flagship Whole Foods. We've been there a few times now.
This is just like an entirely product placement.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
If
you've noticed any changes, we're contractually obligated to say the word Whole Foods every week.
I just love Whole Foods. People are like, what's it like being in the US? I'm like, it's great, there's Whole Foods. Like everywhere. But actually. I think like low lights is the weather. I packed 3 dresses and a pair of shorts on top of my other stuff, and it's been like, I could have brought like a parka. It's been quite chilly.
Do you think that Georgia weather kind of tricked you into thinking that it doesn't turn into winter anywhere?
Maybe a little bit. Plus, like, being in Texas, I just assumed, like, Texas, like, that's warm. Like, my friend from Texas, who I met in Atlanta, she's like, oh, yeah, I don't even, like, own a jacket. Like, you don't really need a jacket in Texas. Like, she told me that.
But I don't know if it's been, like, unseasonably cold. But when we got here, it was close to freezing, which is kind of funny, as, like, we're, like, Canadians down in the U.S. We're like, oh, it's freezing. It's cold.
I just, like, don't even pretend to be, like, a proper Canadian.
Like last winter.
I feel like I'm terrible.
Last winter, we would have been like, oh, it's freezing. It's warm. It's really like a warm winter day.
Oh, God, that's true.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of, like...
Cafe.
Yeah, going to cafes, eating. We went... and did a flotation tank.
Yeah, isolation tank experience. So one of, like, the big things about this trip is kind of, like, relaxing and decompressing and kind of, like, finding space from the regular routine. So I know that's not on, like, the top 10 things to do in Austin list, but it's, like, a cool experience, and it was nice. Like, both of us were pretty stressed out, so... it's nice to kind of just, like, chill out and relax in the dark, in the salt water, being buoyant for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. And hopefully, before we leave on Friday, we're going to get a chance to explore some of the more Austin-y things. So we did do, like, we went to a place called Brave New Books, which is kind of this, like, funky kind of, like, anarchist bookshop, I guess.
Yeah, like, more libertarian, I guess. It's right up by University of Texas, so we drove through the campus a little bit there. Oh, I got pulled over by a police officer for turning right on a red where you weren't supposed to.
And how did that go for you?
It went well. I didn't get the ticket, so...
Amanda did I'm Canadian. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay, I didn't, like, do that like it was an act. I was just like, he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I was like, because I cut off a pedestrian? I don't know. He's like, because you turned on a red light where you're not allowed to turn. And I was like, oh, can you not do that here? Is that a law? And then he's like, do you have, like, insurance for this thing? Like, how does that work in Canada? So I feel like he was just as out of his comfort zone as me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
It is weird how they ask you that question. Do you know why I pulled you over? Like, you should know. You're the one who's pulling us over. Like, you give us the answer, Mr. Answer Man.
Yeah, okay, that's for, like, a different podcast, though. But yeah, no, that was an experience. I was pretty nervous. And the one thing I hadn't thought about either is, so my backpack's right behind my seat, and my, like, license is there. So I roll down the window, my hands, like, reach behind, and he shines his flashlight down and is like, what are you trying to get at? And I'm like, my driver's license?
My revolver?
My pistol? No, but, like, that's probably a real thing in Texas.
We're just like, pulled over, I guess I gotta shoot someone.
No, I mean, like, people actually own guns. That's a thing. People at home don't just, like, drive around with guns.
Probably more common than you expect.
Maybe. But I don't own a gun.
Yeah, so that is our update. We will continue to update.
So where are we right now, Ryan?
We're driving out of Austin towards Dallas after finishing our stay.
Yeah, so I don't even remember the last time we checked in. I guess so yesterday was December 31st, or New Year's Eve, the last day of 2015. And what did we do?
Went out for Indian food for dinner. Went to a park, watched the music, watched the fireworks, went and ate s'mores.
Yeah, so we walked into town in the evening. I guess a bunch of bats fly off, like, the Congress Avenue Bridge. It's not really bat season, plus we got there too late, but I was really looking forward to seeing the bats. Unfortunately, there were no bats. And then we went to Rainy Street to get some food. Went to an Indian restaurant called Garage Mahal, which is, like, pretty nifty. And we met up with some new friends at the fireworks at the park.
Yeah, and that's really, today I just feel tired. So.
Yeah, so Ryan and I had kind of intended to watch the fireworks that were at 10 and then just kind of like go back, maybe have a glass of wine, kind of chill out, maybe go to bed at like 12:01 type thing, maybe even before then. And we ended up going to a cafe and getting s'mores and some drinks and ringing in the new year, and then conversation was really good, so we actually didn't leave till like 2 a.m. and then woke up to leave Austin today, so that was a bit tiring. What's been your highlight of the day so far?
Breakfast tacos at Taco Deli.
Yeah, so Taco Deli is... How did you hear about Taco Deli?
The internet.
Did you just Google best tacos in Austin?
No, someone I follow who runs a company called AppSumo mentioned it before as like the best tacos in Austin, so I looked it up because I remembered it.
Yeah, so we went to Torchy's Tacos, which is another chain of tacos, and that was really good. And Taco Deli is like just as good, I would say. But yeah, breakfast tacos are a pretty interesting concept. It's just like a taco, except more like breakfasty food.
Yeah, it's so much better than a breakfast burrito. I'd never like experienced breakfast tacos before, but since being here, I've had them for breakfast 4 days.
Have you?
Yeah, but today was the first time. Like the other 2 days were like one taco.
Okay.
But it's so much better than a breakfast burrito. Like when you get a breakfast burrito and it's all like kind of smushy and gross. It's like too much stuff.
Like the eggs get all like wet.
Yeah, but the tacos are perfect, and it's also you get to like kind of sample around. Yeah, I'm gonna miss eating tacos for breakfast.
Yeah, so leaving Austin, sort of what are your like thoughts, feelings, highs, lows of the trip? What are you thinking?
It was really cool. I think that it was. It would have been really nice to have like one day that was like entirely free and didn't have to work on.
Yeah.
Or, like spend time working on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice city. I like it a lot.
Yeah? What was like the highlight of your trip? Was it Taco Deli?
The tacos were really good. Yeah, we ate like kind of good food. Yeah, the like meaty people was good. How about you? The meeting people was good.
The meeting.
We had a couple friends, which was nice.
Yeah. I think the weather was a bit of a downer for me. Like that was a bit of a low. I'd expected it to be a bit warmer. Like it's currently 8 degrees Celsius.
But like, what were you expecting to be like summer?
I wasn't expecting summer, but like summer in Texas is like over 40 degrees. So I thought it'd be like in the teens and sunny. Like mid-teens. I thought they'd be like
wearing shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah, so I'm just
in the grass.
I'm just gonna throw it out there. I packed 3 dresses, and like I really could have used like a headband and mitts and a down something or other. Like it was pretty chilly.
Yeah, especially last night. I was really missing like a toque.
Yeah. So that was definitely the low. I think the high was the food for sure. Like definitely the best part. Taco Deli, Torchy's Tacos. I love chips and guacamole and like Mexican food, so I was just kind of like in my element in terms of the food scene. But yeah, pretty cool city. Lots of like cool things to do and see, experience. I think it's a very livable city. Like in terms of a tourist, there's not like, it's more about kind of just experiencing like the food culture and the coffee culture and like the live music bar scene type thing, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to spend some more time there in the future.
Yeah, maybe road trip home. Another podcast episode.
Yeah, one thing that's really cool about Austin is there's so many events there, I think.
Yeah. It'd be cool to go back for like a festival or something.
Yeah.
Conference. But so we are on our way to Jackson, Mississippi, although
Jackson, Mississippi.
It's a bit of a distance, so we're not entirely sure if we're going to make it that full way tonight. We haven't booked anything yet, so that should be an interesting thing. Hopefully that works out for us. But we'll check in a little bit later and update y'all on how it's going.
Y'all.
Just like trying to be southern. How'd I do?
All right. Give me a description of what's happening right now.
We just had tacos for the second time today at Torchy's Tacos in Tyler, Texas. We are on our way to Monroe, Louisiana, where we've decided to spend the night. Since it's like 5 p.m. and Jackson is still like 4.5 hours away, we're going to
Jackson, Mississippi.
Split the difference and not stay there. Plus, I looked up a hotel and it was a 2-star, 52 Canadian dollars a night, so like good price, but 2-star. And then I read the reviews and they were like, worst hotel ever. Like a bodyguard escorted me. I think this might be a pay by the hour hotel. So I was like, okay, maybe not the best thing ever.
Yeah, definitely less exciting destinations to stop at halfway on the upper route.
Yeah, so when we came here to go to New Orleans, came to Austin, we went through New Orleans, which is like sort of a southern way, which is slightly longer, I guess.
Why did we go this northern way? It's not really even... I think it's only like 30 minutes long or shorter.
I don't think there's anywhere else that's like exciting to stop at on the bottom way outside of New
Could have gone like Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
I guess. I don't know. I thought it was just faster to go this way. I really have no idea.
So how is driving through Texas going?
It's a bit like bland. I don't know. Lots of like farm country. Small like Texas towns. It's a cool experience though, I think, to see like rural countryside of a different place than where you're from. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't really been like too present as we've been driving around, kind of just driving, listening to whatever we've been listening to. I'm feeling pretty like tired and wiped out today from staying up late last night, so that kind of contributed to deciding to not like push ourselves to go a long way.
Yeah, we actually thought about staying in Shreveport, which is like right the west side of Louisiana, like kind of just crossing the border. It's really close to where we are in Tyler, but it would make for a pretty long drive tomorrow to get back to Atlanta, so decided to push on a little bit, but not as far as Jackson.
Is there anything else interesting happening?
I mean, my whole life is pretty interesting, but...
You know, one thing I've been thinking about is how awesome it is that we can get all these, like, podcasts to listen to while we're driving, compared to, like, if you're trying to do this and, like, Also, so, like, if we were trying to do this even, like, 7 years ago, okay, maybe 10 years ago, there, like, really aren't podcasts. You can't Airbnb.
Yeah, like it's so incredible the way you can travel now, which is, I don't know, it's one of the things.
We can do hotwire from our phone at a Mexican restaurant like 2 hours before we're actually going to show up somewhere.
Yeah, like we literally just booked where we were going to stay. And we could have done the same for Airbnb. There just wasn't, good Airbnb options for where we wanted to go. Yeah, pretty amazing. And it's like, when you think about road trips when you were like younger or whatever, it's like, okay, like let's have a bunch of CDs. Like I remember driving with my parents, even the 3-hour drive to the cabin that they owned, and there was like a box of CDs. Like it was a nice CD case, but my dad would change out the CDs before a trip, and then we'd like take turns picking the CDs, and that's what we did on the road trip.
My dad had like my family wasn't nearly as into music as yours was, but we had like a cassette of the Forrest Gump movie soundtrack.
Yes.
And just listened to that so many times, like hundreds of times, over and over and over again. So yeah, it's really nice to have some variety. Even like you can do like streaming Apple Music and get like any song you'd ever want to listen to. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible.
/ we can make podcasts while we're driving.
Yeah, we can listen to podcasts, we can make podcasts, we can listen to any music in the whole world that we want. It's a pretty incredible time to be alive here in 2016.
America!
I was going to the year, not the place, but okay, that too.
All right, if you had to describe your emotions right now in the form of a color, what would that color be? Go.
Like a pale pastel blue. Feeling a bit low energy, kind of tired, a little bit sad to be leaving Austin, so I think that's my color. What about you?
The first word that popped in my mind was purple.
Could you explain that one?
Well, no, that's the point reason it popped into my mind. It's not. If I had to really think about how I'm feeling, I feel kind of like dull yellow.
I'm like a dull yellow flower.
So you feel sad to be going home?
Yeah, I just started thinking about all the things I need to do come Monday and even like tomorrow when we get home, and this kind of means that I can't eat tacos for breakfast and lunch anymore. I mean, it doesn't mean that, but it kind of does for the sake of my health, I think.
Yeah, for me, eating my 4th, 5th, and 6th tacos of the day has made me feel quite uninterested in future tacos.
Yeah, I'm pretty complete on the taco front. I feel like I got my fill of tacos while we've been in. Where are we right now?
We are just in between Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Birmingham, Alabama.
What are your impressions of Alabama so far?
I haven't really been paying too much attention because just in like long distance driving mode. I'm thinking about how like this is a really long drive, but it's really like you just kind of keep on. It's like, 3-lane road. There's trees on the side of it. You don't really notice that much changing, which is a bit different from like the long distance drives I'm used to driving from like usually Alberta back to British Columbia.
Yeah, where it's like really windy and you're super present and there's a lot of mountains and that's
not super present, but it's windy. There's mountains.
You can be like a bit more present with those windy roads, I think.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. Just been cruising along.
We stopped at the University of Alabama.
Well done.
It's a pretty incredible university. Like all the buildings are.
I don't know about incredible.
I don't know. It's like old, lots of like brick.
Yeah, like imposing.
Imposing. It was really quiet there though, so Ryan pointed out that it seemed a little bit like cold feeling. But I think it'd be really different when in like the heat of the semester when there's a ton of students there.
Yeah, it's interesting how like it's pretty cool how much green space there is. The buildings all kind of like look the same, which is kind of gave me this like it's like all the buildings look the same. They're all kind of like big, kind of cool looking. There's no people around, so I think I said that it looked kind of like Pyongyang, but like obviously nicer than that. But it's crazy how there's just like this ginormous football stadium amongst like just fairly small buildings around.
Yeah, definitely. The football stadium's pretty impressive. Like I don't think I've ever seen a football stadium that big.
Yeah, it'd be certainly weird to go to a university like that.
Yeah, just so different from, like, we both went to the University of Calgary. Dano's got, like, a couple hundred people out, maybe, like, a couple thousand. Like, not a big crowd at all. Like, one side of the Calgary St. Peter's thing was not even full. So, kind of interesting change of pace, I guess, if you went to one of the big...
Yeah, and I think there's, like, this... Like, one thing that was nice about going to U of C is that it's in a city. Like, you are kind of disconnected from, like, the actual, like, market and, like, the real world. But you're still, like, you're not as disconnected as you would be if you went to, like, this gigantic university that's, like, basically in a university town.
Like Athens, Georgia? Like the University of Georgia?
Yeah, like one of these big schools that dominates the town. And you don't really get an interaction with, like, what people are doing outside of that. You kind of just get absorbed in this little bubble. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be possible, not to insult anyone who...
No, I think it's cool, like, you just get a different sort of, like, college or university experience. But, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, I feel like when you're in college or university, your world is already so dominated by what you're doing there, but it would be even more so if you were, like, in a town where that's, like, the whole town was about that.
It was interesting. Last night we were listening to, I think it was Tim Ferriss' podcast, and they were talking about. Is that Tim Ferriss where they're talking about the decision to go to university, and someone recommended just like, oh, in the 70s, people just went to like San Francisco.
Like with Derek Sivers?
Was that podcast, or is that something else?
I think that was that podcast.
But yeah, I mean, you just don't get, like, it feels like you don't get the life experience. You get this kind of like weird experience that's not really as, like, you get thrown into this like really closed off culture in a way that's like, you know, about like parties and socializing and being in like frats and things, and going to football games on Saturdays and like passing tests.
Yeah.
Which is like not
life. Life for a short period, maybe. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. Kind of cool thing to consider. So how are you feeling about getting back to Atlanta in the next couple hours? Excited?
Yeah, I'm really happy that we chose to drive back and give ourselves a day off before jumping back into life.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to having the day off tomorrow. Kind of.
Yeah, it's funny, like, we should call that a day off, but we're still, like, doing podcast stuff and probably, like, working on other things, but just not having a bit more control of my time, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the things that's, like, interesting about working for yourself or being self-employed, entrepreneurs, like, finding the time to actually have a day off. Because when your hobbies become your work, you're not really too bothered to do them on your weekend, but I think it is important to have balance. Yeah, I think I'm excited to be getting home now that we've been kind of like driving for 2 days. Like ready to get back to the ATL.
Yeah, I really think it was good to get a bit of to go somewhere else. I think will help me be appreciating Atlanta a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I know for me, it is nice to like get away and have a change of pace. Now being in the car for 2 days, like I've got a really bad headache, I'm tired, I feel lethargic, so I'm excited to get back to like my regular routine and be like exercising a bit more and eating a bit better, not eating tacos for breakfast and lunch.
How did it feel for you to go through Louisiana and Mississippi and get like a more southern experience? No, it's not really experience because we're just like driving through it, but get like a peek at the south.
Yeah, I mean, we stopped in Louisiana on the way over here, so I think that we got a little bit of a feel for that.
But like New Orleans is pretty distinct.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's like cool to see other parts of the South. It makes me feel like Atlanta isn't as southern as the other places in the South, if that makes sense. Like, it's obviously really southern, but like...
It's just like metropolitan versus rural.
Yeah, so driving through like rural Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas is like very rural South, so...
What does that mean?
Like small towns, like crazy southern accents. Like we stopped at a gas station last night and the girl called me Sweet Pea. Like, sign for me here, Sweet Pea. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. I don't know, just like southern.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you think?
What do I think about what?
What was your experience like driving through some other places in the South?
Like it kind of wasn't really that present. It's interesting. I think that it's cool getting like a bit of a taste for what these places are like that I really wouldn't have probably gone. You know, like I didn't really ever think about going to Mississippi or Louisiana. It's cool to drive through and see like the University of Alabama, some of these like random towns that you've only like heard the name of.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've come to the end of the road trip, right?
I think so. We haven't been in a car now for a while, so we seem to be back in the apartment in Atlanta.
So where are you now?
I think I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
What do you mean?
The road trip is over.
Sorry?
Oh, so good. So how do you feel now that we're back home?
I feel fairly sore. That could be unrelated, though.
I felt a little bit sore too. I think that sitting in a car for 2 days and doing not much other than eating tacos probably isn't the best for the body.
Yeah. Yeah, my back is all tight, which I guess 15 hours of driving in 2 days could do to you.
Yeah, and also you've gone back to work now too, so I think there's probably that added stress there. It was the first time that you had ever done work remotely. Is it something that you enjoyed?
I found it really nice to be completely, I guess maybe not completely, but more in control, I felt like.
Yeah, like you could kind of set up your days yourself.
Yeah, you have way less distractions. You can focus more on projects instead of having to take stuff on as it comes. It's interesting. When I was thinking about our trip in advance, I feel like I wasn't really paying attention to the fact that I would be working, that like every day we were there was going to be a work day.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy the way it worked out. Like we showed up like Sunday evening into Austin and then we left on Friday morning. So, and Monday through Thursday weren't holiday days. So you actually had to work all 4 of the full days that we were in Austin, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's do some pros and cons of the road trip. What are your 2 biggest pros? Did we already do this in a car somewhere?
I mean, it's kind of funny for listeners, I'm sure, because they're just hearing it all at once, but we recorded in so many different spots. We talked about things we enjoyed and didn't enjoy throughout, but so my 2 biggest pros, one was the food. The food was definitely a huge pro from our trip. And the other one was just change of location, change of scenery. Wasn't going to the same Starbucks every single day to do work or working at home. So it was nice to kind of switch that up and just experience something new. Mm-hmm. What about you?
So your 2 pros were food and change of scenery.
Yeah.
So getting change of scenery is really nice as well. It kind of reminded me of... So coming down here to Atlanta in the States wasn't a plan for a very long time. It was something that kind of decided on really in like July, and then it was kind of unsure, and then September I'm here. So it was cool to be able to go. Like I joked about going to Austin with Amanda, like, oh, we should go to Austin for...
You were like, we should move to Austin. We should move to Austin. And I was like, we're not moving to Austin.
Like years ago. Yeah. But now to be, taking this road trip across the southern U.S. is something I kind of wanted to do, but it was never like actually something I was like really thinking about doing. So it was kind of this reminder of like, oh, this is weird that I'm living in the U.S. doing things like this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think like Nashville and New Orleans were on my list of American cities that I wanted to visit, but I think realistically I wouldn't have driven to either of those. I think when I think about doing an American road trip from Alberta in Canada, I think about doing sort of the like Washington, Oregon, California, like Nevada sort of area, as opposed to traveling through Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, which is pretty sweet. Saw a few new states on the trip, which was, I guess, always cool. Yeah,
it is cool. And it's also, I think that area is kind of one of the more like culturally distinct areas
of the U.S.
Yeah, like if you compare like Atlanta to, I don't know, some other city, it's not as different as like, a city to like New Orleans seems kind of...
Oh yeah, New Orleans distinct. I feel like is a completely different world, which is pretty cool to experience.
So yeah, that was one of my pros. Yeah, I really love breakfast tacos. That's just like such an awesome food thing.
So I think when we left off on our last check-in, we were pretty over the tacos because we'd had breakfast and lunch. Like had tacos for breakfast and lunch. Are you kind of back on the taco bandwagon again?
I still have like a bit of a taco hangover. I'm not like desperately craving them, but Taco Deli. So what were some cons of the road trip?
The weather. I think I talked about this before, but I was just not prepared for how cold Texas was.
The end of December.
Yeah, I know, but it's Texas.
Did you look it up?
I like checked the weather beforehand. I guess so. I was like, okay, 15, like that's pretty warm. I think there was just kind of like cold air the whole time. I don't know. My like only friend from Texas told me she never owned a jacket growing up, and she lives north of Austin. So I was like, okay, sweet, I'll be fine. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just a wimpy Canadian. I'm not too sure. I think I've really adjusted to the warmth down here. I think going home is going to be a big shock to my system.
Yeah, yesterday walking to work was really the first day where it was like cold. I think it was close to freezing.
I think it -2 yesterday morning and this morning in Celsius in Atlanta.
So your con is winter.
Winter. Winter is just a con in general in my life.
Anything else?
Yeah, there was a second con that came to my mind. I think spending a lot of time in the car. So we drove to New Orleans, and I was really looking forward to spending December 26th, which was our only day in New Orleans, like really experiencing the city. And I think we got, some idea of the French Quarter. But listening back to what I said in the beginning, the thing I was most excited about in New Orleans was trying some food. And that first evening, the second evening we were there, we were both exhausted. We'd like both gotten dressed to go out for dinner, and then we kind of looked at each other, and I was like, Whole Foods and a movie? And you're like, yep, I'm down for that, which is fine. I'm totally okay with that decision, but I think I would have liked to have more energy throughout the trip. I think that driving really took a lot of energy out of me, and it kind of reminded me of, when you take a small vacation, which is not something I do very often, I tend to go a little bit longer, or longer in general, to places. You really spend a lot of that time decompressing from what you've been doing. So I know, for you and I, it took us quite a bit of time to kind of get on the same page, because we don't spend every single day, every moment together. And it took time to kind of get my energy back up from, feeling tired from Christmas and pre-Christmas activities and pre-Christmas stress and just all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it was only 8 days, and we spent 30 hours in driving. So
yeah, essentially we spent 4 of those days in the car.
For the most part.
So we must have been gone 9 days, because we had 1 day in New Orleans, so we didn't drive, in 4 days in Austin. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those are my cons. What are yours?
I think that it's not really a con. It was just it kind of reminded me of having more travel-y freedom. And I was like, oh, it would be nice to be on this trip for longer and have a bit more time to explore during the day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then maybe that's really the only con I can think of. I did think that you kind of mentioned it, we had the first couple of days we were back together, spending our entire days together. It was kind of a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, I feel disconnect's a good word. We're used to spending a couple hours a day. I mean, if that, together. And it was just a little bit weird at first to spend all of our time together. It's one of those things I know we've talked about in the podcast before, but I think that it's kind of crazy that the average couple doesn't spend more than a 2-week vacation together in their life. Because I think that, it's important to spend time together and really connect. And it was a reminder to me that, sometimes when we're both in our heads and busy day to day, we're not always really connecting.
Yeah. And it is crazy how when you do get a bit of space from your day-to-day life, all these things that you think you're fine with and aren't bothering you kind of just come roaring back into your head as soon as you get a bit of space.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel lots of the trip for me was spent really, I guess getting in touch with what I want out of 2016 in terms of entrepreneurial activities and business stuff and work and relationships and that sort of thing. So I think that that's good, but ideally it would have been okay, deal with this sort of mental fog for like 3 or 4 days and then have, it's nice when you have 5 more months, or even 3.5 more weeks type thing.
So do you want to go back to Austin?
Yeah. So my car is down in Georgia. We need to get it home at the end of this little adventure of ours. And I think that it'd be really cool to drive through Texas again and maybe see Austin in the summer. It seems like there's lots of cool outdoor activity things to do. And I felt like it's a little bit chilly to do a lot of them. Like paddleboarding was definitely not a thing that we could do.
Yeah, absolutely not. And then you're also going to Mardi Gras as well.
Yeah, so I'm off to Mardi Gras in like a month.
Will there be a Mardi Gras episode coming?
I was considering asking the girls that I'm going with if they'd be okay if they wanted to guest on the podcast.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Maybe I could even get some interviews with people along the way. Some drunk crazies.
Some reporting.
Yeah. Gone from podcast host to TWW reporter. Live in action from Mardi Gras, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. It's kind of a little bit experimental for us. We haven't really done too many episodes yet where we're actually like doing things and recording on the go. So any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Let us know what you like, what you think could be different, maybe.
Yeah. As always, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook at The World Wanders or on Twitter, The World Wanders as well.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say you can find the show notes for this episode at www.theworldwanders.com. We'll have links to our favorite taco locations in Austin, so you can go look at the menus and drool a little.
And a little while ago, we set ourselves up on patreon.com. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it allows you to become a patron of your favorite content creators. Are we content creators?
I think we are.
So if you get value out of the World Wanders podcast, if it's contributed to an improvement in your life, and you want to send a little bit of that value back our way, you can go on to patreon.com/theworldwanders.
Yeah.
And subscribe to support us per episode with a fraction of $1.
Yeah. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Ciao.